Apps4Librarians, also known as Apps for Academics. Interchangeable titles here. And I'm so glad you're all back in here. So for this first approximately hour-long session, I'd like to make it much more interactive and informal. So please raise your hand anytime you want and interrupt me, stop me, ask me questions. This is a much more informal session. So what I'm going to start with is I'd like to find a little bit about from you, like which devices you own. So could you raise your hand if you have an iPhone? Wow, that's the majority. Okay. Raise your hand if you have an Android phone. And a large minority, that's great. How about an iPad? Ooh, a lot of people, great. And how about an Android tablet? Ooh, about 4 or 5 people? Great. Great, okay. And let's see, what do we got? How about an iPod Touch? Cool, a bunch of people right there. I like iPod Touches, especially the newer ones with the cameras, because you can do a lot with them, and you don't have to buy an expensive phone plan. Okay, so basically what I'm going to go through right now is a little whirlwind tour of a whole bunch of apps, and this is pretty much the same content that we teach to our MIT students when they come for their Apps for Academics workshops. I changed it a little bit, but I'd like you to feel free to just ask me questions, but I am going to go through quite a few different apps. Many of these you might know already, and some of them hopefully will be unfamiliar. When I meet a lot of people and ask like what apps they like, a lot of times people say, oh, I don't know, I just use whatever came with my phone, and they haven't really explored a lot of apps. So I'm kind of an app addict, so like I have hundreds and hundreds, actually more than 1,000 apps on my iPad and iPhone, but I don't keep them on my devices at any one time. I keep them mostly on my computer or in the cloud, and then just keep a few hundred on my devices because I'm always testing different ones and thinking about which ones I want to pick out as the most useful apps that people can use in their academic life. So my goal with teaching these is to just make it so that people don't have to have app overload and go all by themselves looking through the App Store, which isn't very user-friendly sometimes for searching, and make it so that our students who come to this workshop can just get right down started to do their work, especially if they haven't had time to explore the world of apps. So these are what I think are some of the best ones. So let's start out with, once again I want to mention this LibGuide that we made. It's libguides.mit.edu/apps, and feel free to copy this and reuse it for your audiences. This is where we have links to all the apps I'm going to talk about here. So you can find, including these slides that I'm showing you are linked from the last page of this LibGuide so that you can get all this information later. So the first category on our LibGuide is about productivity, and that includes things like managing your files and your passwords and that sort of thing. So how many of you use Dropbox? Great. Dropbox is super popular right now, and if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. It's something that you can install on your Mac or Windows desktop with a free account, and then you can hook up your mobile devices to that same free account, and you designate a folder on your hard drive, like on your computer, on your desktop or laptop. Whatever you put in there will also show up in that same folder on your iPad or iPhone or whatever you have. So it's a super handy way to get content back and forth from your mobile devices to your computer. They give you 4 gigabytes for free, and if you invite friends with a special code, they keep giving you a little bit more space as an incentive for you to spread the word. I eventually broke down and bought a pro account because I was using it so much, and now I have like the 50 gig account or something. And it automatically syncs in the background, so you don't even have to think about it. And you can make as many subfolders as you want inside your Dropbox folder. Here's how it looks on the iPhone. So it's just super simple. You just click on that and you see all your files. And they also have an Android app, a BlackBerry app, iPad, iPhone. It's very multi-platform. And the nice thing about Dropbox is it works with a lot of other apps. So it's sort of a core app that everybody should know about because all these other apps, like I'm going to talk about some of them like GoodReader, use Dropbox as a way to get content in and out of them. So this is always the first thing I recommend to all my students is to get Dropbox. And in fact, the people who made Dropbox came from MIT, so it's pretty popular there. Sometimes when I'm walking around campus, I see these guys with their Dropbox t-shirts on. So it's a hot thing now. The next app is called To-Do, and this is a to-do task manager app. Now there are many of these different to-do apps. A lot of them are good in different ways, and I've tried a few of them. But I finally settled on this one, and the reason I like it, it's $4.99, and it's for the Apple devices. The reason I like it is it has the good combination of ease of use but a lot of features. And a lot of apps that have too many features are just too complicated to figure out, but this one's very intuitive. And it has like subfolders and categories and due dates. I never used to keep due dates on my to-do list, but now I do because when I wake up in the morning I can take my little tiny phone off the bedside table, open it up, And it'll show me the things I said I was going to do today. Of course, there's always a million things that I didn't get done from yesterday. And then you can just reset the dates and kind of juggle through it all and put it off into the future when you think you're going to have time, and reset it. And then hit the sync button, and it just syncs with its own server, and then it's there on my iPad too. It also uses an app on the web called ToodleDo, and it syncs through that, so when you're on your desktop, you can just open up ToodleDo on the web. So that way I can see it in all the different places. It has sort of this 3-ring binder metaphor, which is kind of a little overkill in my opinion, but it does make it kind of pretty, along with those Apple guidelines about making things look good. So I like that one. If you're on Android, there's one, I'm not an Android user, but I went out and looked for reviews of good Android apps. This is one that gets a lot of good reviews, and it's a free app, or you can get a $4.99 premium version. It's called G-Tasks. The next app is 1Password. How many people use this? Anybody? One person? Two? Okay. This is free. Okay, this is a password management app. How many of you use some other password management app? Okay, well, which ones do you guys use? LastPass. LastPass, yeah, that's a popular one.
Passkeeper.
Passkeeper, okay. And are those free? Yeah, a lot of them? Okay. 1Password I like a lot because it's super simple to use, and it runs on your Mac or Windows, desktop, Android, and iOS, which is the Apple devices. So it's very multi-platform. What it does is it enables you to generate random passwords that are kind of long and ugly like that you can never remember, but they're much more secure than the ones you remember. And I do what everybody has done for so many years. I have maybe a handful of passwords that I use over and over again on like every website. And if a hacker gets into one of those websites and steals everybody's passwords, the first thing they're going to do is go try those passwords on Amazon, eBay, bank accounts, all the ones where it matters, you know? So this really is a much more secure way of handling all those multiple passwords in your life. And I was afraid to try it at first because I thought, oh, what if my database gets corrupted, or I don't have it with me and I need to get in and all that. But I've been using it for over 2 years now and I've never had a problem. That's because it syncs in the background using Dropbox, so it keeps it up to date on all my devices. And I always have one of those devices with me. And I still do use a few insecure passwords on some sites where it doesn't matter, that I remember in my head, but for all the really important ones where money is involved, I use this and generate a random password. And you can also even generate a web page that you can upload to your own server somewhere that you can encrypt if you have access to your own server as another backup in case someday you're in somewhere out of town and you don't have any of your mobile devices or any of your computers. You can log on to your friend's computer and find your encrypted file there, so that's just yet another fail-safe way. And everything's done through encryption. No thing like this is ever 100% secure, but this is more secure than using those same passwords on all those different sites. So I highly recommend trying one of these password managers. The next app is called Log Me In, and this is a remote desktop app for both iOS or Android. Anybody tried this one? A few, couple, okay. What this does is it lets you remotely log on to your desktop or laptop from far away. And there are several programs that allow you to do this, but the reason I like this one is because it's super simple to set up. It's kind of expensive for an app. It's $29.99, which for a computer that would sound cheap, but for apps we have this expectation of 99 cents. But I felt like it was worth it because that was one price I paid for all my devices, and I didn't have to fiddle around with a whole bunch of configuration files and things that are just a pain to set up. This one is just super simple. You just follow their instructions, boom, 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 and it just works. So now I can log on to my home computer no matter where I am with my little iPhone, even if I'm not on Wi-Fi, it could be on 3G instead, and just manipulate my desktop computer. Let's say I forgot to put a file in Dropbox. I could get on here with Log Me In, drag that file into Dropbox on my home computer, and then open up the Dropbox app on my devices and get the file, right? So it's very handy to have something like this. It works with Windows and Mac. So the next category is reading, e-reading. So that means eBooks, RSS feeds, PDFs, not only reading them, but annotating them, citing them, and sharing them. So we'll talk about a few apps here. Anybody here use Instapaper? Okay, I would have thought more people would use it. I love Instapaper. There's a little bookmark that you can get that you install in your desktop web browser. And what it does is lets you save something to read later when you're offline, or when let's say you're somewhere where there's no Wi-Fi, but you have your phone. So a lot of times you're surfing the web or reading your email or whatever, and there's some great article and you just don't have time to read it now. You can hit that button. It'll harvest all the text and images off that page, but it won't take all the navigation or the ugly ads or anything. It'll just take the good stuff, and it puts it into your free Instapaper account, and then you can access it either on their website or on any of your mobile devices that have the app. They have a free demo version, but it's worth getting the $4.99 Pro version because the free one only lets you save a few articles. And only recently they also made it available for Android, so that's great news because it's a wonderful app. There are a few other apps in this category. There was one called Read It Later, and I think now it's called Pocket. Does anyone use that one? Yeah? And there's another one, I forget what it's called. They have similar names like Read It Later this, or that. They all do the same thing, they're all good, and they're really worth using. I do this all the time when I see an article I want to read later that's on the open web. It doesn't work like through our authentication systems, so it can't harvest, like even if you've logged in to a database and you got the full text right on your screen, it can't read that because it can't get through your authentication. So I kind of wish that somebody would invent a way for this to work through our authentication and harvest full text from our licensed resources. But it's good for free stuff. And then I'll read it when I'm on the subway underground or somewhere where I can't access the internet. Here's how it looks on the iPhone and iPad. And it also gets the images, as you can see here. You can also make folders, and so I have this huge database of like a whole bunch of folders of different topics and many articles that I've saved in there. It also gives you a random email address that you can email stuff to, and then it ends up like an email of long text in the body of your email, not an attachment, but the text in the email. So the next app is GoodReader. Anybody use that one? Cool, a handful. Okay, this is my very favorite PDF reader, and it's for multiple reasons my favorite because, and this is only on the Apple platform, not Android. What it does is it lets you, it connects to Dropbox so that you can get PDFs into it very easily, or you can email things to it. And it lets you annotate your PDFs and also read them in different ways. So it has a lot of different drawing tools. You can circle things, you can highlight things. And here's how it looks on the iPhone. And it lets you connect to all these different services like Dropbox, Box.net. There's a whole bunch of things that are kind of like Dropbox that you can connect to get files into it. You can also connect it to your Gmail accounts and other things like Google Docs so that you can easily get that content into here. And then when you're in there and you're reading it, you can make folders and subfolders. And as you know, the iPad, the iPhone, it doesn't have this desktop metaphor where you're going to make folders on your desktop with subfolders. Each app handles things as, it's sort of app-centric, right? But since we still have in our brain this idea of a hierarchy of folders, it's nice to have an app that lets you make your little hierarchy of folders for your stuff. So you can use GoodReader that way as just a way to like make folders and subfolders and organize your documents. You can put things besides PDFs in there too, like text files, MP3 files, videos, all sorts of things. You can just put them in there and read them in there. It's a multi-viewer kind of thing. But a lot of academics like it because they like to annotate their PDFs. So this doesn't have that authentication problem because you can just, when you're on your desktop, open up Dropbox, get your PDFs out of your databases, stick them in Dropbox, then go to here, open it, and read them and store them on your iPad in GoodReader. So that's a nice workflow. The next app is the Kindle app, and how many use that? Everybody, right? A lot of people. So I started out having an actual Kindle, you know, the e-ink reader, and then later I sold it to get the new Kindle, and then later I sold that to get the iPad, right? But the nice thing about what Amazon does is that they make everything available on all platforms. So even if you don't have a Kindle device anymore, you can still read all your Kindle books on your mobile devices and your computers using their apps. And it's free for both iOS and Android. But here's how it looks on the iPad. And here's a particular screen inside of one of the books. And here's how it looks on the iPhone. And I'm amazed at how much I read on my little tiny phone. Like most people, when you first ask them, are pretty hesitant about reading on a small screen. But it really works because you can increase the font size to just how you like it. You can change the brightness of the screen. You can hold it in one hand and you can turn the page with your thumb, which is incredibly handy, especially if you're like me and you're on the subway and you're holding onto the pole with your other hand. And then when your stop comes, you can just shove it in your pocket and walk off, and it remembers where you left off. So, and then of course, as you know, it synchronizes between all your devices and remembers the last page you read. So when you get home and you pull your iPad out and you're going to lay down on the couch and read on a bigger screen, you'll remember where you left off and let you synchronize there. So the Kindle, I like what they're doing by making it available on all these platforms. I've experimented, and I think it's worth all of us experimenting with all the other e-readers like Nook and Kobo and all of those. But the reason I'm going with Amazon is because I already had a whole bunch of books from them going way back. I have a huge wish list going way back, even when I was only doing print books. And so they kind of have the advantage there in that that's true of a lot of people. And And so I kind of use Amazon like as if it was books in print or something, you know, it's where I always go to look up a book and keep track of my wish list. I have multiple wish lists. I hope they never get rid of that because I'm very dependent on their wish lists. So they kind of have the leading edge there with e-reading. Here's how it looks on the iPhone. And plus you can, you know, archive things and keep them on Amazon's server. So if you want, you can just keep a few books, or you can keep a whole bunch of books on here. You know, they aren't very big. And what's the other thing about it? Oh, the free samples. I use those all the time. You know, you go into a bookstore and you see a book you might be interested in. I just look it up right away on here and get the free sample. And it's usually the whole first chapter. And then later when I have time, I read those, and then I can make a better decision about whether to buy it or not. So I love that. Sometimes I can get a lot out of just reading free samples of a whole bunch of books, like especially nonfiction, where you're just trying to get a sense of what's out there. So we have an e-reading FAQ on our website for our students, and here is where we talk about the sad fact of how a lot of our licensed databases don't have very user-friendly things for mobile devices, right? As we all know. We have questions like, well, you know, what library books are available to download onto my e-reading device? You know, how do I get them on here? And we also have I don't have it on here, but we have a page that lists all of our licensed e-resources that are e-book packages, you know, like Springer eBooks and Safari, Books Online, all of those. And most of them, you know, as you know, are pretty bad. You know, like you have to view it on your computer in a frame, and it's HTML, and so you can't even save it as a PDF, or it has some weird DRM on it that it can't open on different devices. So, but some of them are starting to do the right thing. And one good example is Springer eBooks. You can get every chapter of their licensed content as a PDF file, and it's DRM free. So if you have a PDF of a book from that, you can put it right on your iPad or your iPhone or whatever. So I hope that we can advocate with more publishers to do what Springer is doing. If one of them is doing and they're surviving okay financially, I would hope that the others could do it too. They're just so afraid, you know. And another good publisher is O'Reilly Books. You know, they've had a lot of technical books, and they're doing a really nice thing, which is letting you buy. I don't know if libraries do this, but I do this as an individual. Buy a package where you can buy the printed book and the e-book in multiple formats, all in one little bundle for a reduced price. And I love that for technical books, because a lot of times you want to open it on your desk and flip back and forth, which is not so easy to do in an e-reader, this flipping back and forth thing, and look at the diagrams and things. But it's convenient when you're just reading a text to also have it on your phone or your iPad. So you can buy it and get the EPUB. You know, Amazon doesn't read EPUB, but you know, Barnes & Noble does, and a lot of other e-readers do, iBooks does. And get the PDF. You can just get all these versions, and it's like you own the content, not the versions, and that's what it really should be about, but most publishers aren't there yet. So that's e-reading, and now let's talk about storing all of your papers and citing them, you know, like all the citation tools. One of the most popular apps right now on our campus is Papers, and it used to be a Mac-only tool, so that's why a lot of people didn't use it, but compared to other ones like Mendeley and Zotero and EndNote and all of those, Papers has just gotten rave reviews for the best ease of use. And so the Windows people were really happy when version of Papers finally came out, because it does a lot of things that everybody wants to do, like lets you search some of these licensed databases within it, keep a database of all the papers you've saved, spit out the citation in all the appropriate formats. It has a Mac version and an iOS version and now a Windows version, so it's very user-friendly. Costs $14.99. It does have a few little problems with our Easy Proxy server that I don't know if they've solved. I haven't kept up with that. At least last year they were having some problems, but it was true of everybody who had Easy Proxy. I hope they fix that soon. But Papers is a really good one that a lot of people on our campus like. Here's what, it also has annotation features in it too, so if you don't want to use GoodReader, you want to keep everything here, you can do the same kind of annotation. And of course we have a web page, another LibGuide about all these different citation tools where we do like a little comparison chart like EndNote, RefWorks, and Zotero, and we offer workshops on that for students. What I've found is that as we've been doing these sort of ethnographic studies of our users and interviewing people, that a lot of people, they know they have to do citations, but they don't really care about it that much. What they really care about is just organizing all their stuff that they've found. That's their real question. It's like, how do I keep track of all these millions of papers that I'm gathering for my project and find them again and organize them? And within that, they care about citing because they have to, but that's not their passion. So last November, I was speaking at the Society for Scholarly Publishers down in DC, and I gave them the results of our user needs studies and talked about these issues and tried to advocate with publishers to do the right thing. And one thing I said to the Zotero folks who were at that conference was, you know, it's a tough business to be in, I think, to be making citation managers, because it's not people's passion, it's not what they're really trying to do, they just have to do it. And if somebody could make something that was just the Uber management tool that works so well, and by the way it does citations, that would, I think, really be a selling thing, because that's really the user needs that people want. So we as a library are starting to think about doing more support of what we're calling personal content management, which is the thing of helping people find the stuff that they've already got. You know, like it used to be we had to find stuff. Well, now everybody has lots of stuff, and you can't even find all the stuff that you already have, because is it on your desktop? Is it in Dropbox? Is it in Google Docs? Is it in my email somewhere? Is it, you know, it's like fragmentation of the cloud. You know, everybody's using a million cloud services. So we're going to be maybe doing some little videos about how to manage your academic life with these different tools, and we might look at some different tools like Evernote and tools like that, which I'll talk about in a minute. So we're just getting started with trying to support that area of people's lives. So now, RSS reading. How many of you read a lot of RSS feeds? Yes, it tends to be a thing librarians do. I read a lot of feeds. I have a Google Reader account. And there's a lot of different apps that act kind of as a front end to Google Reader accounts. And this one is called Reader. It's one of the best ones, really popular. It's $2.99 for the iPhone or $4.99 for the iPad. And what I like about it is it's fast. So if you have lots and lots of feeds, some of the other RSS readers are slow and you just don't feel like waiting for it to load. But this one just loads right up really quickly. And if you have folders of feeds, you know, like on Google Reader, it handles all that very well. And it lets you take everything out of there again and tweet it and email it and send it to Instapaper and all that. I used Reader for a long time, but then I found out about Feedly, and I like that one even better, and it's free. So now I'm a Feedly convert. And it's available for both iOS and Android. And here's how it looks. You can have this sort of graphical view where the images are prominent, or just have more list view. And it's also very fast. It handles all the folders. It's a front end to Google Reader. But I love that all the features that let you tweet from it, let you save to Instapaper, let you email things. This is my primary tool for tweeting, actually. Not all my different Twitter apps. I tweet from Feedly like every morning before I even get out of bed. I'm like sitting there looking at my RSS feeds in Feedly. I'm like, oh, that's a good one. And I hit the tweet button and it shortens the URL. It lets me add a little comment if I want, or a hashtag, and then I just hit send. And it's a way that I can keep up with a lot of tweets because it's so convenient. I wouldn't even tweet that much if I didn't have a convenient tool for it. And have you heard of this tool called Buffer that lets you save your tweets and dole them out over the 24-hour period? Did anybody use that? Probably Amanda does, I would imagine. But I've experimented with Buffer because all the studies show that you get more followers on Twitter if you tweet at different times of day around the clock, because a lot of your followers might be in different time zones and things. For me, the people that are following me are usually other librarians, because I don't think that MIT students are really big on Twitter like the students are here. But I use it as a professional development tool to talk to other librarians. So I tried Buffer for a while, but Buffer was not integrated with Feedly, so I stopped using it. I could only use it when I was on my desktop, and you can put in some tweets, and it'll send them out later, and you can tell it, okay, I want to send a tweet at 7 a.m. and 10 and noon and 4 and all that. So I just gave up, but I did write to the developers of both Buffer and Feedly and say, could you please work with each other, because this would be great. And so I hope they do at some point. I heard that they recently, I think, integrated with Reader, so maybe they'll integrate with Feedly too. So this is just an example of the fact that unless something's convenient, you're not going to do it, and I find that true in my own life too. And Feedly's just super convenient. Anybody use Flipboard? Yeah, a lot of people. Isn't it fun? It takes your RSS feeds or other kinds of feeds like Facebook feeds and Twitter feeds, and it lets you see it in a very graphical way where the images are the most prominent thing, and where you can swipe through and see things with bigger images, especially things that when people tweet something to you and it has an image attached, it lets you see it big like this. Or it's a different way to view your Facebook and Twitter things. You can see the quotes that people wrote in a much bigger way, and sometimes it's easy to miss when you're just scrolling through a list. So Flipboard is really fun. A very similar tool is called Pulse, which actually came out before Flipboard, and it also has a very picture-centric way of browsing things with these horizontal slider bars where you can slide like that. And so what I tend to do is I have certain feeds that I'm following just for fun that are about interior design and photography. Like they aren't my core professional things, but they're more like for fun. And they're topics that are more visual, where it matters a lot more, not just to read the story, but to see the pictures. And those are the kind of feeds that I use these tools like Flipboard and Pulse for, because it's much easier to browse visually with the photos being prominent. And it has even a cover flow like view if you want on the iPad. So now we're on the topic of library research and our typical sort of licensed databases, but also some free tools. Anybody here use Wolfram Alpha, either on the web or as an app? Yeah, a few people. This is a really popular tool at MIT because it's a site where you can search for information. It doesn't just give you articles about that, but it gives you the actual answers, like answers to math problems and chemical formulas and population of different cities. It's got all kinds of data in there around science and social sciences and just everything. It's like this huge encyclopedia. And it's very science and engineering oriented, so a lot of MIT students like it. And they use it on the web. And they have an app for both iOS and Android. It's only $1.99, and it's just super useful to be able to look up actual statistics and things right in it. Also, PubGet. Anybody use PubGet here? This is this interface for PubMed that somebody made on the web that's free, and they also have an iPad app and a mobile website. And they've just got a beautiful user interface design, and it makes it easier to access all the content from PubMed in a much more user-friendly way than the traditional interfaces. So this is something that our students like. Also, American Chemical Society has a well-designed mobile app for both iOS and Android. So we have a lot of chemists at MIT, so they like this one. A lot of our library database apps like Gale and some other ones are really clunky and poorly designed and make you jump through hoops to use them to authenticate. And that's kind of sad. But this is one that actually does a little bit better job. So as we hear about more and more of these, we're putting them on our LibGuide, but sometimes we have to write up instructions, like how to make this thing work, and that's a pain. So we do try to point people to the ones that are the most useful, like this one. I really hope these publishers will get a clue and start reading the Apple User Interface Guidelines or something so that they can make these things more user-friendly. Here's how it looks on the iPad. EBSCOhost is not bad. It's not great, but it's not terrible. They have an app. And now the next category is taking notes. And that includes not just written notes, but drawing, speaking, and image capture. So let's look at some of those. One of our favorite note apps is called Awesome Note. Does anybody use that? Nobody, or one person, I can't see, no, nobody. Okay, this one's fun because it's got a lot in it. It's got to-do lists, it's got note-taking, and it's very visual with nice colorful folders and little icons that you can put on there. And it's really nice. So my coworker who does this presentation with me, she likes this one. So this is her screenshot of like returning a dress in Harvard Square and going to the gym and all this stuff. It's her personal to-do list here. She likes this one better than to-do. But it also has notes where you can import all kinds of stuff, and you can make a travel journal that has geolocation, so you can put photos of your trips, and then it just pulls the map right in there so that you can make a really nice travel journal with it. So it's got a lot of nice features. So if you like just a general all-purpose note-taking app, that's a good one. For Android, there's one called G-Notes that's free that also gets very good reviews. So since Awesome Note's not available for Android, we recommend this one. Anybody ever used Penultimate? On the iPad, a few people, yeah. This is like sort of a really nice drawing app or drawing and note-taking app for your iPad only. It's 99 cents, and as you can see here, you can draw with your finger or a stylus, like chemical formulas. You can draw. It has different kinds of paper, like graph paper, line paper, plain paper, and you can draw like music scores, all sorts of things. And I found there's a lot of interest in the MIT community in this kind of thing, because many of our disciplines now are, if you're an architect, you need to draw things visually, or if you're dealing with chemical formulas or other things, it's not always just about typing text, so people are interested. And Penultimate has a very nice user interface. It's not colorful, it's black and white, but it does a very good job of smoothing the lines, and it just is really user-friendly and it works really well. So here's just some notes that I took while I was listening to a lecture, and it has a thing called hand protection, so that if your the wrist protection is touching the screen, it won't draw there accidentally. So you can turn that on, and you can lean your wrist against the glass while you're still writing, with your finger or your stylus. And by the way, I also have a collection of iPad styluses. I have a budget, so I can buy these on my work budget. And I just have a whole bunch of different iPad styluses. So if anybody wants to come up when I'm done during the break and look at some of them and try them, you're welcome to do that. I just keep buying more and more of them. It's my addiction, iPad styluses. But really, in a few slides, I'll talk about one that I like better. So There's also an app called Handwriting for the iPhone, because Penultimate's only for the iPad. And this one, I haven't tried it too much, but I've heard good things about it. Lets you draw little things and save them like signatures. And there's a number of different apps that do that, but this one's gotten a lot of good reviews. For the Android, we recommend Pen Supremacy, which is very similar to Penultimate and is getting good reviews. And now there's Evernote. Who uses Evernote here? Yeah, quite a few people. It's very popular right now. And I think the good thing about it is that it's a whole ecosystem of apps. Like they have their web version, Android, Apple, and it all works together and it's free. So when you get an account, you can access it in all these different ways. And the other great thing about it is it has multiple ways to input. So not only can you type notes into it, but you can take a photograph and have that go in. You can do voice memos and have that go in, or pull from your existing photographs in your camera roll. And it just lets you sort by date, or you can have folders and subcategories. You can use tagging. You can set up shared folders with other people, like if you're working on a project together and you want to put a bunch of stuff in the same place where you can all access it. Their sub-thing is called Remember Everything, and they're just really popular right now. So that's Evernote. Also, if you want to think about other ways to input, like I mentioned this morning, like talking to your device, Dragon Dictation is a really good free app on the Apple side that lets you speak and dictate, so you can just, like here I said, this is a test, and it recognized it and it typed it out. If it gets something wrong, you can adjust it and type it and fix it. And then when you're done, you can send it by tapping these little guys through an email or Twitter or Facebook or a text message. So I have one friend who he never texts by typing, he just talks to Dragon Dictation and then sends it by tapping on that thing, and it's a much quicker way for him to send text messages. So that's pretty cool. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good because it's that company that made Dragon Dictation software that's been around for a long time. It also has many different languages, and I haven't tried any of those other languages, so I'd be curious to hear if anyone is fluent in another language and has tried this. If you're on the Android side, there's an app also made by them called Flex T9 that does the same thing. And now there's scanning. Has anybody tried any of the scanner apps on their phone? One person, two, yeah, three, a few of you. I love this one. In fact, all the scanner apps I've tried work pretty well, so I don't think it matters that much which one you use. But I like JotNot Scanner Pro because I met the developers once at a local meetup, and they're from the Boston area, and I like to support my local developers. And I've just gotten used to this one. So I don't even have a USB scanner anymore at home like I always used to have. This has totally taken the place of it for me. Because I always have my phone with me. If I need to scan something, I just open it up, take a picture, and what happens is it has a stabilize button, so if you hit that, it waits till you're completely still, and then it focuses, and it takes the picture, and then you get this little grid here, and you can make it go out to the edges, and it'll find the edges, or you can adjust it with your finger so that it's getting the part of the screen you want. And then you hit process, and what it does is it gets rid of the color and it kind of flattens it so it's a nice black and white document that's easy to read. Then you can send it out in many different ways. You can email it, save it to your photo roll, and you can send it in different formats like PDF or PNG or JPEG or whatever. So, and you can name these files. So I wasn't naming them for a while, so they just had dates, but now I started naming them so I can go back to them. But it's just a super handy and quick way to make a scan of something. I even do it sometimes of a page in a book, like if I'm browsing in a bookstore and I'm just sort of reading something and I'm like, oh, I want to remember that. I just take it out and scan it. Or you can do a whole magazine article that way, like just a few pages. It works pretty well. So it's really interesting to see like all the devices that are being, superseded by having your little mobile device in your pocket. If you're on Android, we recommend Scan to PDF Mobile Lite, which is a free one that's gotten good reviews. And now let's talk about writing, like long-form writing. So first of all, I always recommend Google Docs to people because a lot of people already use that and it's on the web. And they have, of course, if you're on the Android platform, all the Google things work great because they're built in. But their mobile website works really well. In fact, I keep a spreadsheet in Google Docs of all the movies I've seen since the year 2000. So I have a movie buff. And I put in there like little rows with the date, who I saw it with, and what it was. And I give it a rating of a 1, 2, or 3, depending on how well I liked it, and also the genre, right? So it's just a simple spreadsheet. But it's kind of fun because people always say, oh, what was that movie? I never can remember the name of it. Plus, it's a fun way to think about who you went to the movies with in your history. So I've actually just opened that on my phone in the past and added a movie by opening it up in mobile Safari on my phone because it's well designed so that you can zoom in, open the spreadsheet, edit a particular cell and then add it, and it just works. It's not that hard because you can zoom in with your fingers. So you don't even need a special app. You can just use them on the website, and it works really well. And if you're on the Android side, the apps are built right into your phone. But if you want to get even more like into the Microsoft Office world, because everybody uses Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and like how do you deal with those on your iPad, for example, there are two kind of leading apps that most people like. One is called Documents to Go, and the other one is called Quick Office. And I think they're both around the same price, about $10. And they're available. This one is available for both iOS and Android. I think Quick Office is too on both. And it lets you open up like an Excel spreadsheet, a PowerPoint presentation, or a Word document and edit it and save it back again. Now sometimes these apps have little glitches in them, like Amanda was telling me about her professor she was working with, where it angled the footnotes in the document, and that's super annoying, so she couldn't use it in the way she wanted to use it. And I've noticed that too in documents that I've been using with a team at work that had some numbered items. I'm sitting around with my committee at this table and someone says, okay, let's look at item number 7. I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, it started over with 1, 2, 3 in the middle. I don't know which one they're talking about. So I'm like, can you guys call it by the name? My thing messed up here, you know. So they aren't perfect yet, but they at least allow you to be able to do some quick edits for most simple documents on your phone, or your iPad. There's also plain text editors, right? Like if you're just doing something that's not formatted, but you just want to take a bunch of quick notes, or this also works for things like HTML code or any kind of programming code where it's just all about the text. There's a lot of apps that connect to Dropbox, and so that as you're taking notes, it's saving it instantaneously into your Dropbox folder, which is really nice. So this one called Nebulous Notes is one of those that's very good. I also use another one called The Elements, which is a nice, simple one. It just lets you open up a screen and start typing, and if you walked out of the room and 5 minutes later lost your iPhone, all your notes would be safe in Dropbox because it's saving it directly into the cloud. And Nebulous Notes is nice because it has little macros in it, like that you can set up to type frequently typed things. Epistle's a good one for Android that we recommend. Does the same thing. Now let's talk about accessories again for a minute. How many people have an external keyboard for either their iPad or their iPhone or Android? A few, yeah, okay. I got the Apple Bluetooth keyboard when they first came out. In fact, I already had one at home that I was using with the computer and I didn't need it anymore. So I started using it with my iPad. I like it because it's really super lightweight. It just runs off of batteries and you can just throw it in your bag. And then if you're sitting somewhere and you prop up your, depending on what kind of case you have, you know, and there's some cases where the keyboard is built in, you can really sit there and do long, regular typing, which is faster than the virtual keyboard. But you know what, after a while, I stopped bringing it with me because I just wanted to travel lighter, and I found that I got really used to the virtual keyboard, and for most things that I was doing on my iPad, I didn't need to type long documents. Mostly, if I'm going to like be writing a really long paper, I'm going to sit at a computer and do that. So I really like, I like the keyboards that they exist, but I don't frankly use them much. And my coworkers are starting to be the same way. So we've gotten fast at this sort of flat finger typing on the iPad screen, you know, where it's just good enough. So it's interesting. Also, there's a lot of different covers and jackets you can get. Of course, the newer iPads have this smart cover that's magnetic and it puts it to sleep. And we always get those when we get an iPad for someone at work. We include the smart cover because it's so convenient. But I also use a protective, let me show it to you here. If you like Etsy.com, you know, all the handmade stuff, it's a good place to buy covers. This is from an Etsy company called Rogue Theory, and it's just a cute little fabric iPad cover, and I slide it in here with the smart cover on top of it, hit the snap, and throw it in my bag. They have all kinds of nice designs, and it makes it look less like a stealable object. It just looks like some notebook or something. So I really like my Rogue Theory cover from Etsy.com. Oh, speaking of accessories, I'm also kind of an accessory hound. Let me just show you the webpage for this so that you can see it. There's a little thing called a sound draw. And maybe I haven't really played this video, but let me see if it works. I don't have the sound plugged in. I'm just going to mute it so that you can see it. What it is this little tiny plastic thing that comes in different colors. It's super lightweight, and what you can do is slide it onto the edge of your iPad. On the back of the iPad is where the sound comes out here. And you just slide it on, and it it makes the sound kind of be directed towards the front. So if you're sitting there on the couch or in bed and you're listening to a movie or something, all of a sudden the sound sounds 10 times better because it's being redirected to the front through this little thing. This little tiny plastic thing. It comes in different colors. I got white to match my white iPad. Another good tip, so you don't always have to use an expensive speaker, right? This is just somebody's good idea that they got funded on Quickstarter and they sold a whole bunch of them and you can buy them there. So that's called the sound drop. Yeah, people get creative with their Kickstarter videos here. Another tip is if you're somewhere and you want to play something for somebody on your iPhone and you don't have a speaker, just get a big glass, like a beer glass or something that's wide, and just don't put liquid in there, but just stick it in the glass, and the sound will be magnified and it'll sound great. That's another low-end tip for sound. Another thing is if you're into photography, this is the Olo clip for iPhone, and it's it costs $70, but it's well worth it. It's 3 different lenses that attach. You slide this thing, it has a little cover, and you slide it onto the corner of your iPhone where the lens is, and it lets you do 3 things. It has a macro lens, a wide-angle lens, and a fisheye lens. So if you look on their site, they have a gallery, so you can take really super close-ups with the macro lens, and you can see a lot of the pictures that people have taken. And also they have the fisheye lens is fun because you can take all these fisheye photos, and there's people doing that. And then they also have on here the wide-angle lens. And there's different ways you can put this on here, like there's one on the front, one lens on the back, and one where you screw the thing off, so that gives you 3 options for lenses. Now I haven't had time to really play with this enough. I want to. I'd like to offer another workshop called Smartphone Photography, maybe someday next year, where we talk all about all the cool things you can do with these photography apps, because there are so many creative things going on in the world of photography with smartphones. There's tons and tons of apps for making collages and videos and Instagram with all its cool filters. There's just a lot going on in that area. And I think there's a lot of interest and it's worth doing a class, but I haven't had time to yet, but I hope to next year. And there's a little URL on my last slide where you can sign up to be notified. It was on the slides this morning, where you can sign up to be notified of future classes that I'm going to teach that are online, so you can do them from anywhere. So if you go into my slides from this morning and look at the last slide, you can go there and sign up to be notified of classes I'm going to teach if you're interested in these topics. Okay, now back to the slides. How much time do I have left in this session?
About 10-15.
Okay, great. Stands, this is just another cheap thing, like a business card holder from Staples, right? It's a perfect little stand. And another thing that's kind of fun to do, if you have like the external keyboard, do you know it works with your phone too, not just the iPad? So what's kind of fun is to take a little business card holder, like for 69 cents, and stick your phone in it, and then take your big Bluetooth keyboard and sit in a coffee shop and start typing your novel on your phone as the display. And all these people will come up to you and say, wow, what are you doing? I didn't know you could have a full-size keyboard with your little phone. It's a good way to meet people, and it works. So that's another tip. And getting back to the stylus question, a lot of these styluses or styli or whatever they're called, when they first came out, I got this one called the Pogo Stylus, because that was pretty much the only one at first when there was just iPhones. And I have one right here. It's pink and it has a foamy tip, and it's in this picture right here. And these are called capacitive styluses. That's what works on iPhones and iPads for it to hear your tap. It's sort of like, it's soft and squishy like a finger would be. Like if you took a pen or a pencil and tried to draw, it wouldn't even notice it, but of course you wouldn't want to scratch your screen either. So I got this and I tried it on my iPhone, but I never really liked it that much because you have to push down kind of hard, and I just preferred to use my finger. But then later when I got an iPad and all the different styluses started coming out, I just started experimenting with different ones. And sometimes you can get ones that are both a stylus on one end and a pen on the other, so if you want to be a geek and have things in your pocket, and but I don't really do that. But one stylus that I like that's different than all the rest is this one from Deiji that you can order on eBay from like Hong Kong or Taiwan or something. See how it has a little clear tip there? A little flat clear tip. it doesn't look like the other ones with the squishy thing. The nice thing about it is that when you draw with it, there's a little dot in the middle, and you can see the pinpoint precision of where, it's going to draw where that little dot is, but it's got this flat disc, and you can see exactly what it's doing, so you can do more precise things with it. And I saw a YouTube video of a woman who's a real artist recommending that stylus. That's why I got it. Some other more general purpose ones that I like, there's one called Alu Pen, and it's thick like a magic marker, and I like that for some reason. It comes in different colors. I have a gold one, the little vinyl case, and you can use that. And it just feels ergonomically good in your hand because it's so thick. If you want a general all-purpose stylus that's just like a normal size of pen, the bamboo one is really good for $30. And here's a new one from Deji that I just haven't gotten around to ordering yet, but I want to because it's got that same clear tip, but it's movable and adjustable, so it's getting good reviews. It's $25. I want to try it. So now, back off of all these gadgets and back to presentations. So a lot of academic people need to give presentations or attend webinars, and there are good apps for that. Obviously, the main one that Apple people use is called Keynote, which is like a PowerPoint software from the Mac, and it has a wonderful iPad app that works very well. So when I went down and did my talk for the Society of Scholarly Publishers, I did not bring my laptop, I just brought the iPad, and it works great with this dongle here. You see I have my iPad right now hooked up to that screen. And when you open up Keynote, it just opens up your slides. You can make last-minute edits. You can move the slides around. You could create your whole presentation there, but it doesn't have as many nice features as it does on the desktop. So I usually always create my things on the desktop and then copy it to the iPad through Dropbox and then just use it as a presentation device. So that's Keynote. There's also an app for your phone called Keynote Remote that lets you turn your phone into the remote control for your computer, not for your iPad. So I'm using Keynote on my laptop right now. If I wanted to, I could use the Keynote Remote app to advance the slides. And it would show me the notes, that go along with your presentation and the previous slides. Then there's the thing about webinars, right? Webinars are really popular right now, and the major platforms are like WebEx, Adobe Connect, and GoToWebinars, and a few others. And most of those do have free apps for your iPhone or iPad or Android as well. And they usually have pretty much all the features that you would get if you were on your desktop. So for a while, when I first got my iPad, I was trying to see if it could be a laptop replacement and do everything on it. And I was scheduled to view a webinar. I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can see this on my iPad. So I found out that with these apps, it works pretty well, but the people who are presenting it have to turn on the mobile version, and if they didn't, you won't be able to get in. So luckily, the one that I was watching did, so I could go in there, and it has the chat window. A lot of these webinars have a little chat window on the side, so you can even view and type the chat and see all the slides. So they work okay. So here's the chat window for the webinar. You can see all the participants and all of that. That's WebEx. Adobe Connect has a very similar one for both iOS and Android. And now I'd like to do a little bit of a live demo of what's called a shared whiteboarding app. Has anyone ever tried ThinkPad? Okay, cool. So here's what I want you guys to do. If you have a web browser open, no matter if it's on a mobile device or a laptop, go to this address right here, mythinkpad.com/apps. Now this part right here, when you're doing this, you can, if you were in my position, you can make up any name you want right here. This is called the room name. So I just made up apps because that's easy to type. So I'm going to open up the ThinkPad app on my iPad, and I'm going to put the room name in. So you see it over here on this other screen? It says enter room name, so I'm going to type apps and hit go, and it says loading the room. Okay. Now I have a blank canvas. And do you guys have this up on your devices and your computers there? So you should see basically a blank screen. But I'm going to tap on the red pen and pick a thickness and start drawing. And tell me when you're starting to see it. You see it? So imagine you are teaching a class and some of your students are in Singapore or something. You just tell them what URL to go to, and you can draw your whole thing here and do a presentation. There are different colored pens, there are different thicknesses, there's thin. And another nice thing, I'm going to erase that and start over. You can pull an image in, so I'm going to pull an image from my photo library into it. Let's see, how about this one? So remember, this image could be a PDF or something, or a diagram, like a scholarly thing. So here's just a random image that I have. And you can draw on top of it. So I have the thin pen right now, but let me just do a thicker one. And then switch colors. So do you see that? Isn't that cool? So there's a lot of apps starting to appear in this space. It's called shared whiteboarding, and it makes it super simple to share, to do distance learning, you know, across, you know, maybe you're talking to them on Skype or something, but you want to draw. So anybody can be a receiver by just going to the web, to whatever address you give them. But if you want them to collaborate with you and you want them to be able to draw back, they also have to have this app. There's two versions of the app. One is free, and it does the same thing as your desktop browser would do, which is just lets you receive it. But if you get the paid version for $10, then your students can also draw with you. So you can imagine a classroom setting where you say, okay, Amanda, what do you think it should be? Draw this here, and I can show her thing up on the screen because I would have it up here. So this is an interesting area, I think, of the way things are going with these. And a lot of things that used to be hard on computers are becoming very simple with these apps because they just stripped out all the extraneous stuff and made it easy. If you're on Android, you want a similar tool, there's one called ThinkSpace, and it works exactly the same way. So when we teach our class at MIT, we talk about all the MIT-specific apps, and we're lucky because our university makes an app for the university, and then so the libraries got on board with this. We didn't have to come up with the resources to make our own app, but we had the programmers do one for us, so we always talk about that. Actually, the most popular thing on the MIT app is the campus shuttle schedules for getting around, because it has a live thing where it tells you like it's coming in 5 minutes, and you can have it send you a text message when it's getting close, so you know when to go outside and rain. People love that. These are some screens of our library mobile website, and we did this a couple of years ago. We list all the different libraries on campus with their hours live right there, and that's pulled from a Google Calendar where our administrative assistant enters the hours, and so it just pulls it in from there. And we are one of the icons on the MIT mobile homepage, and it's both a mobile website and an app for both iPhone and now, I think now for Android. I can't even remember. We use WorldCat for the catalog because our Olive system doesn't have a good mobile version, so for now we're using WorldCat. And we also, our next step is to turn the Your Account feature of the catalog into a mobile thing. Right now it's the ugly full web version, like putting book on hold, because that's the kind of thing people want to do when they're walking around, is just a quick action like that. But you know, what I really think about, you know, it's sort of a no-brainer now that people have these mobile apps for their libraries, but what I really would like us to do is think more expansively about working with students to make innovative apps that do things that help your academic life, like some kind of GoodReader app or something that connects our licensed resources in a way that doesn't make you jump through hoops, or something that just makes everything easier for everybody, you know, like rather than just the usual things you would do on the desktop, because what do you want to be able to do when you're walking around? It might be different, you know, like you're in a store and you can do this, you can scan the barcode of a book and save it to a list with various apps. But what if we really made one that was designed for people's academic lives? That's where I'd like to see us go next. MIT also has sort of their own YouTube called MIT Tech TV. So we put our tutorial videos and things into this system, and it has a lot of the same features that YouTube has, and including like captioning and all that. And it's got, I forget what it has, but we're redoing all of our videos because, you know, when videos were first popular, I really enjoyed your session on videos, by the way, right before this. When videos were first popular, we just assumed, okay, we got to make a video about everything. So we just made these really kind of boring videos of, here's how you search the catalog. You go here, you click on that. And they're just boring. I don't even think that many people watch them. And I could barely stand to watch them all the way through myself, even if I made one, you know, like, because they're just boring. So now I'm on a little committee that's trying to figure out what are we going to go do with our instructional videos, and we're recommending making them really short, making them about some specific power tip that you might not know otherwise, and only doing a few videos on things that lend themselves to being seen in motion rather than every last thing doesn't need to have a video. And in our survey, a lot of people told us, you know, it's just quicker to scroll through a LibGuide page and see some screenshots than watch a whole video about something and try to find the place. So I'd like to see us get smarter about when to make a video. Anyway, MIT Tech TV has a mobile website, so everything we put in there, just like YouTube, it works well on mobile devices. There's also, you know, MIT OpenCourseWare, which came out about 10 years ago. They have a free app, so if you want to get that, it's a good resource for academic people because you can go in there and you can watch all these lectures, MIT lectures on different topics. That's a good one, it's free. Also, Technology Review, the magazine, has an app, but it's not all their content. It's just selected content that they give away for free. If you have a subscription, a personal, you can get all the content. And the next category is music. And we do recommend music apps to our students because music is very popular at MIT. A lot of scientists are also musicians for some reason, and we have a lot of music performance on campus, and a lot of people like to listen to music while they study. So we have a subscription to the Naxos Music Library database. It has both iOS and Android apps. It's got a few hoops to jump through to set yourself up for it, but once you've done that, you can listen to huge libraries of all different kinds of music streaming through our subscription. And of course, everybody loves Pandora, where you can make a custom radio station for yourself based on other music that you like. And I heard an interesting presentation once by the founder of this. They have something called the Music Genome Database that powers this. Have you heard about that? The thing that makes it different from Last.fm is it's not, the way it's building and choosing what songs to put in your station that are like the one you started with, it's not because people liked this, also liked that. It's not that at all. It's they have this giant database where they have professional musicians assign lots and lots of metadata to all the songs in there, like slow, lazy beat, female lead vocalist, or classical from the Baroque era. You know, like they have like every possible descriptive meta tag you could imagine on all this music. And what that ends up doing is it gives independent artists and musicians an equal footing with ones that have been heard and played a lot, because it finds things that are like it by having the same metadata. So that way, and they have a lot of independent musicians in their database, you can find out about a lot of new music that you might not have heard of. So we recommend this to our students, and a lot of people love it. And here's how it looks on the iPad. And one more really great music app, if you like live streaming radio over the internet, is TuneIn Radio. And there are several really good radio station apps, but this one is my favorite, and I'll tell you why in a few screens here. Not only can you find radio stations from all over the world, and it has location awareness, so if you're going on a trip and you have your device with you and you want to hear the local radio, just hit the button so it knows where you are, and it'll show you the local stations and you can listen. Or you can search by genre or by talk radio, political shows, comedy, like all kinds of things. And you can bookmark stations, and so you can listen to your home stations when you're far away from home, or find the kinds of music that's not available in your area. So like in Boston, we have some people that like to listen to Zydeco. We don't have much Zydeco radio stations in Boston, so we get the ones from New Orleans, and we listen to them, and we bookmark them, and it's fun. But the really cool thing about it is it has a TiVo-like function where you can save a recording of something, and you can have a timed recording. It's super simple. If you're playing something, you can just hit the record button and it'll start recording, and when you're done, you hit pause and it saves it right on your iPad to listen to later, or you can set it up with a timer. So TuneIn Radio is just great. Again, on our LibGuide, we have a whole bunch of resources of good books for keeping up with apps, and these are some of the ones I recommend. There's even an app, there's a lot of apps for keeping up with apps, but the one is called App Advice, and they have a website and an app, and I like it because they have a lot of good ways that they're categorizing apps, like apps for soccer moms or apps for lawyers or whatever. So that's a fun site. And these are some of the best books. And that's the end of this little part of this presentation. So after the break, if you want to come back, I'm going to talk about the book as iPad app, which is the subject of a course I'm going to teach in October about these books that are multimedia and that are specific books are titles. So please come back for that.